What feels illegal, but isn't? Hiring a babysitter for the first time. Hear me out. The first time I hired a complete stranger to watch my kids, it was so fucking weird. My daughter was 18 months at the most, and I just waved goodbye and gave someone my cell phone number and PAs. So strange. My husband struggled to understand the mental hang-up I had about this. Our kid went to part-time preschool, and we had no other child care. After the second kid, a job situation presented itself to where we'd need a nanny as well. It was very weird to interview people and basically give them a trial run with my kid, even with the whole background check and references thing. I babysat throughout high school, eventually working for 4 families regularly. I realize now the incredible amount of trust they put into me. The one I've experienced recently is hitting 205 kph, around 130 mph on the Autobahn. Definitely feels illegal as an American expat. It is definitely weird to think that the limiter on the card is lower than the speed limit. I'm from Germany, so it doesn't feel illegal for me. But when you are at 380 kmh, 236 mph, it feels like a near-death experience at it, since a lot of people ask for the car. It's not my car, I was co-driver. It was a BMW M5 from a friend. He owns a tuning workshop and has everything in the car to get more power. If you approach with the car slowly, it will lose his grip instant, and you need to drift a bit until you can get it back under control again. Watching a video on your phone at full volume in a public place. I've done this a few times on accident, and I wanted to crawl out of my skin and die. When I was pregnant with my son, I had to do weekly ultrasounds, and this other couple there did too. They usually showed up at their appointment 15 minutes before. We were in the waiting room. The husband gets up, goes to the bathroom, comes back, opens his phone, and you hear this lady moaning on his phone. I pretty much knew it was one of those Facebook videos because I sent one like this to my sister. But everyone else probably didn't. He turned like 10 shades of red and sunk into his chair. The wife was so embarrassed. He tried to explain to her it wasn't porn he was watching in the restroom. Man, poor guy. I didn't see them again after that. I went to some fast food shop where there were only 2 guys working and nobody else. Right after I got my food and sat down, I took out my phone and accidentally it started blasting some music video at full volume. I didn't have headphones with me to connect and mute it. I immediately went for the volume rocker, but the phone froze up for about 20 seconds. I unsuccessfully tried to muzzle the speaker before it finally came back to life and let me turn it off. That was mildly inconvenient, to say the least. Civil forfeiture. Oh, you're carrying money. We'll take that, and if you want to get some of it back, you'll have to sue us and prove you've obtained that money legally. Of course, we'll contest the lawsuit and make you spend more on lawyers than we've taken from you. Sometimes, not all the time, I feel guilty for taking a life of another being. Like sometimes when I swat a mosquito, I feel bad cause they're just trying to make ends meet. You know what I mean? Driving past a police car when they're under the speed limit, and you're doing the speed limit. Everyone slows down and tries to stay behind them, but the legal road limit is X. You can do X without getting in trouble. Bringing a concealed weapon into a movie theater or similar venue. It's against the rules, sure, but not illegal unless they ask you to leave and you refuse, in which case it's got nothing to do with weapons anymore, you're just trespassing. I look older than I am, or at least did when I was in my 20s, so I've never really gotten much scrutiny when buying alcohol. Some run-of-the-mill ID checks, but I think I'd bought alcohol about 4 or 5 times legally before I ever got carded. So for me at least, it quickly felt like buying anything else. Except for this one time when the cashier, a middle-aged to older woman, judged me hardcore. Bought a 6-pack of beer, thinking nothing of it. She asked for my ID, I showed it to her, and she sighed, shook her head, and said, "Yeah, I guess you are old enough to ruin your life." I chuckled awkwardly, not sure if she was joking or what, but she kept mostly silent the rest of the transaction, and just had this look of resigned disappointment the whole time. So I don't know, maybe she was just messing with me, but if so, her poker face was impeccable. Shit was weird, and the only time I really felt awkward buying alcohol. Cannibalism isn't illegal if you don't kill people for it. If the bodies you eat are already dead, it won't be illegal if you eat them. Not quite. Specifically, eating a person isn't illegal. But the vast majority of ways you could obtain and prepare a body for consumption are. There's been a few cases where this was worked around by people eating donated parts or convincing doctors to give them their own amputated limbs, etc. But by and large, most ways you could attempt cannibalism will end up being illegal. In my state, we have an adverse possession law where if I were to claim a piece of land or simply tell my neighbor the yard between us is mine, after 10 years it's legally mine. Edit. So here's the explanation for all you doubters. My grandfather gave his and my grandmother's house to my sister when he died. 9 years and 9 months later, his estranged other 2 kids, whom I'd never met, took this to court. He had 4 kids and my mom had power of attorney over him when this happened, so he legally couldn't have given the house to her. The lawyers said they filed quickly because of the 10-year law. The house had to be appraised and she had to pay those 2 their 1/4 of what the house was worth. My mom and aunt gave my sister their 1/4s because they honored my grandfather's wishes. Edit 2. I was an intern at a law firm at the time, and they all agreed it was unfortunate that it happened just before the 10 years was up. Bringing your own bags into a store. I grew up in Colorado where I never really saw people do this. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but there you get your things bagged for you anywhere and everywhere. Now I live in California and not everywhere has bags for free, so you either pay for the bags or you bring your own. So we usually bring tons of bags when we grocery shop to avoid paying for bags, and it always feels really weird to me because it seems like it would be so easy to steal things. Whenever we leave our grocery store, they mark off your receipt and glance at your cart, but never really check anything. You could easily slip in whatever you want. It just seems so weird to me. Now that we have a carrier bag charge in the UK, it's got to the point where I'm actively irritated at myself for not having my own bags with me. What feels more like I'm taking the piss is reusing carrier bags from another competitor. Rocking up to Asda with a Tesco bag just seems really rude. Having lived in CO, I can say it is much more common nowadays, at least in the big cities. At Trader Joe's especially, I definitely saw more people bringing bags than taking the paper ones at the store, probably because Trader's always has really cool bags for sale for a few bucks. I have several of their bags and they're great. Now I'm in the EU where a lot, if not most stores will charge for bags at the checkout. It's usually pretty cheap, the equivalent of $50, but it has encouraged a lot of people to bring their own bags or reuse bought ones. I get unreasonably angry when my husband and I forget a bag and have to buy one. Lol. We have about 5 plastic bags from Billa and several from Lidl clogging up the kitchen shelves. In the country we live in, they put lockers at the front of the store to put big bags in, like it. You've walked from another store and already have shopping to discourage theft, I guess. I found out from my husband, who was born and raised here, that it's probably safer if I keep even my empty shopping bags in my purse until I'm at the checkout. Otherwise, I might be suspected of taking something. Now I see a ton of locals walking around with their reusable bags in the store, and even using them as shopping baskets to hold their groceries till they go to pay. But as a non-native, I'm paranoid now, lol. Always feel anxious about my purse being stuffed with empty bags.